Good morning. Here we are, fifth Sunday in Lent coming up, and I think I've come to that point in Lent where usually I have to remind myself what Lent's really about. It's a penitential time. It's a time for giving things up. But of course here in pandemic year 2021, that might seem patent nonsense, because in the last year some of us have had to give up more than we would ever perhaps have wished, for longer than we perhaps have wished, and we've lost some people, we've lost some occasions that we would always want to be there, part of our life. So in a moment of national and community grief, as it really is, it would be crass, perhaps churlish, to remind us that Lent is a time for giving up and penitence. I grew up as a Cumnor Garden Anglican, now Baptist, nonconformist, and Ash Wednesday didn't particularly feature in my upbringing. Well, that is more than a half day off from school after the morning service. Now perhaps even less. That has become, just something Roman Catholics and I Anglicans are more about. Pancake Day, Shrove Tuesday, and the talk of giving things up for Lent did, back then and now in these lockdown days, simply made us think of chocolate and luxuries perhaps that we could afford to give up and perhaps should, which unfortunately for so many seems to be what the focus of Lent has boiled down to, reflected in the question which was often on some lips back at the start of this season of Lent. What are you giving up for Lent? What are you giving up for Lent? Well, at the best of times, and 2021 is far from the best of times for everybody, I've always felt that boiling down a spiritual season as this is meant to be, to simply giving up chocolate or booze, is the best example there is of totally missing the point of Lent. It doesn't adequately embrace the true nature, the meaning of Lent, and as is typical in the highly individualistic culture of 21st century Britain, it shifts the focus of Lent to a me and God experience, based on what I am doing for God, which can easily be what it boils down to even it not taking Lent seriously. What I mean is that we can run the risk of actually engaging with Lent by simply saying, I can suffer like Jesus did by giving up something I find nice in my life, like chocolate or Facebook or coffee. I'll be more like Jesus, really. No, self-deprivation like that will never place us in the same universe with the experience of Jesus, much less in the same room with Jesus, the same kingdom ideals. The ultimate irony is that our spiritual ancestors of the Protestant Reformation repudiated the practices of the their time precisely because such practices solely focused on personal self-justification, self-gratification or fasting, not on the grace of God. Nothing is supposed to be just about us working to ensure our well-being or salvation with God. And if you think you need to give up chocolate or Facebook or booze or coffee, as by my growth in weight during these COVID shows, by all means give them up. But it's no good just doing it for 40 days and then letting them back into your life, thinking it will be somehow earning you God's pleasure, brownie points with the Almighty. You might then be thinking, I'm going to tell you, even perhaps urge you, to take something up instead of giving something up. It is often said that taking something up is more positive and generally a very good thing. On one level, it does seem better, but it's really basically the same as giving something up. If you do it for yourself, then you're not necessarily doing it for God. We cannot earn God's favour by taking or giving something up just like that. Furthermore, in 2021, when we have already lost so much permanently or temporarily, it seems just as much of an insult to your intelligence to suggest taking up some activity for Lent will help. So what then are we to make of Lent before it's done? What am I missing? As we always do, we have to go back to the Bible and look for God speaking to us through His Word. And in today's reading from John, Jesus makes time to encounter God, sets an example to us to engage with God and to know that He is loved by His Heavenly Father no matter what. How can we use Lent to encounter God, engage with Him, and know that we are loved through all of this? Well, it's called love. Love yourself through Lent. It's a suggestion of different ways, perhaps, to care for yourself each day as you grow with God each day. By Lent 2021, many of us are already bruised and fragile, mentally, physically, and spiritually. However much perhaps we may admit it or not, God does not want us to make that worse. I'm sure that God instead wants us to rediscover what His grace and His mercy is about, what His love for us is about, that He holds us in the palm of His hand. And Lent is nothing more, nothing less than knowing that closeness with God. So with what time of Lent we have left, I suggest we just take a deep breath. Be still and know God. Know Jesus. Take time with Him. Well, we have all had that moment, haven't we? When we've been so busy, so caught up in something, when suddenly you realise it's done with, it's finished, or that it is perhaps time to leave it behind and move on. At that point, it's good to take a deep breath and commit yourself to the new course of action. Exhale as you start down the new path. And in the Gospel of John, these chapters 11 and 12 are like that. They stand, if you like, as a bridge between Jesus' ministry and his hour of action, of death on the cross, of resurrection. It's the time between the public ministry of Jesus and the hour of his death. And you can almost hear Jesus take a deep breath before he faces the future. We can see him pause when he sees the symbolic meaning of a different kind of people coming to him. Instead of directly addressing their concern, Jesus turns and looks to the task that is now before him because of it. When he tells the Father to bring glory through the cross, it is the most dramatic event in history. And I suggest that here at this point in Lent, in this pandemic year, we should do the same. Take a deep breath. Let ourselves be still. Still. Not giving up what we can afford to give up, but considering what we need to give up or to take on board that will perhaps be costly to us, but worthy of him and of humanity, that we might step over the bridge into the new that will be for all of us as we move out of this time of agony. Not just Lent, but this pandemic year. And know and receive what he wants us to be in the future. Before Jesus, in effect, took that deep breath and committed himself to the cross and started his new course of action, he'd been teaching the disciples and healing the people ready for this. And in a way, he's been doing that for us. 4 times John reports that the hour had not come. Then in verse 23, Jesus said, the hour has come. The difference was that certain Greeks sought him out, that his message began to reach beyond his own Jewish community to the Gentiles, that finally the light would shine into all mankind. And I see this example for us, for the church, for the love of God and Jesus' commands to us to not only just love God and know him, but to love our neighbour and know them. In a way, this past year has also been that opportunity to stop and take a deep breath and be ready to cross the bridge to our new purpose as Christ's people, as the church, and let his light shine out into the year ahead. Take a deep breath this week. Take a deep breath, know Jesus, and begin to step out into the new with him. God bless till we meet again.